There is a shot in the Hollywood classic Casablanca that is a 25-second close-up on Ingrid Bergman staring into empty space. This is it. What you're looking at right now is one of the most memorable, culturally significant images in the entire history of cinema. And yet, in this 25 seconds, nothing happens. So in this video, we're going to explore what this shot and others like it have to teach us about stillness as a cinematic technique. So let's get into it on the art of storytelling. Even if you've never seen the Hollywood classic Casablanca, you've certainly heard its most famous lines of dialogue.
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life. Who's looking at you, kid? We'll always have Paris.
Perhaps most famous of all is the moment when Ingrid Bergman's character, Ilse Lund, sits next to Sam, the piano man, and says,
"Play it, Sam. Play as time goes by."
For context, the story takes place during the height of the Second World War, and it's set in a bar named Rick's Café Américain. The bar is situated in the city of Casablanca, in French Morocco, which is a kind of waypoint en route to the neutral state of Portugal, which at that time was a destination for those hoping to flee Nazi-occupied Europe. Rick's Café is full of morally dubious characters, and one gets the impression of a seedy underworld of corruption just below its glamorous surface. Rick, the owner of the bar and the protagonist of the story, presents himself as kind of detached and apolitical, though we get hints that deep down he's a compassionate person. And into this setting enters Victor Laszlo, leader of an anti-Nazi resistance movement. He's hoping to escape to America along with his wife Ilse. She seems to recognize the bar's piano man, Sam, and also seems to know something about Rick, and this is where we enter the scene. She asks Sam to play an old jazz standard called As Time Goes By. Sam seems reluctant to play it, which tells us that the song, and by extension Ilse, is a bad omen for Rick. But Ilse persists.
Sing it, Sam.
At last, Sam plays the song in full, and this is where we get that 25-second close-up on Ilse. Let's watch.
Just a sign. The fundamental things. Two lovers woo, they still say I love you. On that you can rely.
So let's pause here just to contemplate what a bold artistic decision this actually is. It's worth asking why the director, Michael Curtiz, chooses to linger on this shot. One practical reason is that it gives the viewer a moment to take in the entire first verse of the song, whose lyrics foreshadow the character revelations that are to come later in the story. But the really fascinating thing about this shot is that it seems to go on longer than it should. As viewers of a film, we have subconscious expectations about how the medium behaves. Film editing has its own natural rhythm that we become attuned to when we're watching a film. And when this expectation is broken in some way, there's a kind of fourth wall break. We suddenly become aware that we're watching something constructed, something edited. It kind of points the camera inward and makes you notice your own reaction to the image you're looking at. Now, I should make a distinction here. I'm not talking about all long shots. There are many reasons a director might choose to use a long shot in a film. This classic from Goodfellas is about immersing the viewer in the world of its main character. It's not really designed to make you introspective. Children of Men uses long shots to give the viewer a sense of direct involvement in the action. The viewer certainly doesn't end up in quiet contemplation of an image in this case. Of course, the difference is these shots are full of action. They don't linger on something, so the viewer doesn't really have that moment of expecting a cut. The shot of Ilse isn't just long, it's too long. Another great example can be seen at the end of The Graduate, where we watch the character's initial happiness seem to gradually fade into a kind of uncertainty. It's a slightly uncomfortable note to end the film on, and it's an effect you couldn't really achieve by cutting to something else. The slow passage of time is the point. This technique often creates tension or discomfort because you're being compelled to look more closely at an image, and in doing so, you might notice peculiar details that you might not otherwise have been aware of, the imperceptible facial contortions that hint at a character's inner thoughts in a way that the dialogue can't quite reveal. By the way, it also takes great skill as an actor to make this sort of shot attain that effect. Ingrid Bergman's long close-up is a masterclass in this cinematic technique because, while it's technically true to say that nothing happens in this shot, the truth is that everything happens in this shot. The action is in her eyes. She doesn't blink once in the entire shot. Her gaze shifts to her right as she stares into empty space. She appears to be in a state of deep recollection, and her expression becomes more conflicted. There's a sense of deep longing. Her mouth opens slightly, an unconscious facial motion. a break in her composed exterior. It's a really wonderful example of how less can be more in acting sometimes. It's also a good example of how the greatest moments in cinema are very often unscripted. The original screenplay makes no mention of this shot at all, so it's likely that it was just improvised on set, which is incredible. In any case, the message to the viewer is clear. Ilsa and Rick are star-crossed lovers. So when Rick finally sees her, the scene's pivotal, dramatic beat has a real sense of gravitas. Now the audience is primed to uncover the mystery of their past, and as we all know, their story is very often ranked as the single greatest romance in movie history. I think this technique is all the more striking when watching the film today, because it's very rare that modern films deliberately sit in stillness. I really do think it's the signature of a confident director who really knows their craft. Those pauses give the viewer a moment to stop and think about a scene or a character. Instead of being told something, we get a moment to realize something for ourselves. It's less like watching a movie and more like the feeling you get when you're looking at a painting in an art gallery. It's up to you to interpret the image, and for just a moment, to become aware of yourself in relation to the artwork. Casablanca really does have a lot to teach about great filmmaking and great storytelling, but it's techniques like this one that really elevate Casablanca into great art. So thanks for watching, please subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you on the next one.